Welcome to the Real People, Real Business show, where we are talking with business owners who are in the trenches, everyday people who are working hard and have relevant and inspiring stories that you can relate to. Everyone that we speak to is actively building and growing their business and is here to share their experiences, their lessons, their wisdom, and their guidance so we can be inspired to take action towards our own goals. All right. So my guest today is no exception. She has been through the trenches and she has some amazing stories to share. This is one of my favorite human beings. So without further ado, I am so excited to welcome Caroline Mays, who is an artist. She is a copywriter. She is a writer who works with people who are building their own personal brands, who are thought leaders, who are speakers, to help them really tell their own story and create a representation of themselves that they are super excited to put out into the world. And she has such a unique style and such a unique approach to the way that she does her work. So I'm so excited to have you on today, Caroline. You have been in business for a little while, and you are currently doing a little bit of a pivot to some new offers, and I can't wait to hear about them. So welcome to the show, Caroline. And thank you so much for taking the time to share your story today.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Stephanie. I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm excited too. I spent a lot of time with Caroline, and I know so much about her business and so much about her. And so I'm going to have a hard time not jumping in here, but I've got some questions for you. And I am totally cool with you just riffing on the answers and giving me some really cool, meaty stuff to work with. And I think that's what our listeners are here to hear as well. So let's start with the basics. How did you get here? Like, how did you get started? What was that big trigger for you to start your business?
Oh gosh, that story is so ubiquitous. It's out there where people are like working in some dumb job, and it was one of many dumb jobs, and so I wanted to get out of that, and I always avoided copywriting, even though it seems like maybe a logical thing to do, just given education and background of like a liberal arts degree in English and journalism. And so, but I just didn't want to. I consider myself a bit, or definitely an environmentalist of sorts. I mean, I'm not out there saving the whales, but I just didn't want to talk people into buying much crap they didn't need, right? But then the service industry and the idea of working with people to sell their services and what they do, it came like I could imagine it and I could see it. And so anyway, I just dove into classes and teaching myself kind of the about copywriting and like sales copywriting, even though there's so many different kinds of copywriting, and then just started finding my way through all that.
Yeah, and I work with a lot of copywriters just for some reason. And there's a whole spectrum. And I think at one point in time I had 10 clients who were copywriters, and each one of them was different. Each one of them had a different little niche sort of focus. Yeah. So like the word copywriter for me is really kind of general. Yeah. And so how do you kind of define writing in your own sort of scope?
I tell people that I might say I'm a copywriter depending on the mood, depending on the situation. If you say you're a copywriter, then they'll just be like, oh, okay, and turn around and, business as usual, just go on with their day. But I tell people that I deal in the art of the bio. And yeah. So short. And bio is such a funny thing, too, because when you think, people think all kinds of things when they think of the word bio, but I think of it as it's short for biography. And so that is taking your big, long, complicated, many years, probably at this point, story, and condensing it into something cohesive to use for your business and your message, because it does contain your message.
And so were you a writer from the beginning? Like, where did you come from? For some reason, I thought you were like in nursing school or something.
No, I just made a joke about how
Oh,
I would, when I was learning how to do copywriting, I would Google nursing school like seriously
um,
once a week because I would be like, "Are you sure you can't do this?" But I'm yeah, I have a gag reflex. I can't deal with poop and mucus. No way. And so, and my brother's girlfriend is a nurse, and I've heard her horror stories, known nurses, and so anyway, probably wouldn't make it in that world. But yeah, I would say I've been a writer. I've written my, my whole life, but I started taking it seriously, I guess, like investing in classes, and that ranged from fiction to creative nonfiction since like 2007. So, and I've had the pleasure of working with some really amazing people like Lydia Yuknovich, which she's a big time author who has a cult following. I've worked with. I've had a class with Roxane Gay before, and uh, Neil Walsh. So anyway, it like not to name drop, but but it's so important to invest if that's where, if that's what you want to do on some level, even if you just want to be an artist and not necessarily do copywriting. So.
right. And so what was that point where you were like, you know what, this could be a business. I'm going to try that out.
Um, well, so there's this book called The Well-Fed Writer, and I was working at the community college in North Seattle, and the like everyone that worked there was like dabbled in writing in some sorts, or they just enjoyed working with ELL students. And the guy that ran the department he was in theater and he wrote plays, and so these are all people that write and then they have a day job, right? So it's like, how do you be a writer and have a day job, and still do your thing, do your art. And so anyway, he told me about this book, and it's super, at least when I read it, it was super outdated. It's like, send out flyers and, basically like kind of the knock on doors approach. And then that kind of tipped me just, everything kind of points you in the direction that you need to be going, like each little thing that you do. And so somehow I kind of fell into, like I said, like the online world and digging into online classes. And then I was taking a design class actually, and I saw they had a link to one of Ash Amberjay's blog posts, and so that's how I found her. And I was like, what the hell is going on over here? And so, and it was at some point, on going through Ash's stuff where it hit me, like it was just that that aha moment that might have occurred to other people much sooner than it did me. But it was, all these copywriters will try and teach you some kind of formula, like this is how you write this kind of thing, this is how you write that kind of thing. And then it hit me, I was like, oh, she's just a writer. Like she's a like a humorist, and she works in this and she does copywriting. And so then it was just like, oh, she's being creative. It's on. And so then it was a shift for sure.
Right. So you made this thing, this entity, and your business is called Switchblade Lemonade. So first of all, tell me where that came from. What's the name all about?
Well, I was doing kind of general copywriting at first, and I cycled through one or two dumb names, and then I was thinking about how you're trying to kind of curate and condense yourself into this personality or having this online image, and it's all kinds of different stuff, and it was kind of like a play on, and not exactly a play on, but it was sort of a play on sugar and spice and everything nice, and then snails and nails and puppy dog tails, like all those things that kind of go into making people. And so anyway, I was looking for two words that had juxtaposition.
Uh-huh.
So anyway, and that's where it eventually it ended up.
And I think what's so unique about you is that you have so much meaning in your words. Like a written piece by Caroline is like a curated piece of art. And and it's everything you name and everything that you talk about has so much meaning. And so you have a signature offer called the box cutter bio.
Right.
And honestly, even though I've been working with you for so long, I actually didn't know the meaning of the box cutter until, I don't know, like a few weeks ago.
Right. That is
And
true.
so it's about getting yourself out of the box, right?
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
And in my, I have like a media bio, like a short form bio on my homepage. It's about like Switchblade Lemonade, the business, and it says something like we try and fit ourselves into these paragraphs that are really these coffin shaped box that you're expected to lie down in. Like there's really a structure to things, and you're trying to fit yourself into that structure, and that's what doesn't work. And so, at least in my humble opinion. And so, anyway, so it's kind of yeah about cutting out of that and reshaping it so into something that yeah is more real.
Yeah. And so you are like in my mind sort of uniqueness personified. But if you were to think through your industry and the industry you were in, the 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 company that you might keep in the copywriting world,
Mm-hmm.
what sets you apart? What's so unique about your approach or about the way that you write that you think is kind of your big differentiator?
Um, I have a way of I tend to attract people that have a lot to say, and they have kind of all these multiple threads that they're trying to pull in. And so I think I have a way of looking through all of that, kind of like sitting in the matrix of all that stuff and finding the message, finding the wording that kind of says it all, and building up to that point where we say it all, where we drop that line that kind of nails it. And that's messaging that you can take with you, like just in your person, because now you have a firmer, like real tangible grasp on what you're doing. And also, I look back at some of the clients that I've worked with, and they put things on their homepage, and they're using it in social media, and I mean, they're just running with it and going with it. And so it's a yeah, there's a natural disposition there to kind of look into the story and pull the meaning out of that. So
And one of the things that we struggle with as business owners, and I just got off a call not too long ago that where this very the same thing came up, and it's like we know what's unique about us, but we often have a really hard time kind of communicating that and also building that into the offers that we have and the way we do our work, because it's so easy to sort of fit back into the kind of cookie cutter business model because it's worked for others. So why wouldn't it work for me?
right.
So how have you taken that kind of uniqueness that you have and built that into the way you talk about your business and the way that you deliver your work and structure your offers?
Hmm. That's a good question. I'm actually you mentioned the pivot earlier, and that's I when I first started out, it was about bios because I had these examples of bios, and as I've worked with people more and more and more, it's become so clear that it's the work's just gotten deeper, and that's just what's going to happen when you niche down, and you just understand things better, and your perspective breaks open a little bit more, in terms of what you're doing, and so I am talking about what I'm doing differently. And I still want to send people away with bios, but I want to send them away as well, like with their stories and with their messaging. with the way they need to talk to their clients who may have a different opinion than they do, or they have a way of telling their story that maybe it's kind of a taboo story in certain circles, especially the professional world, but
Yeah.
we can position it and talk about it in such a way that it's where it's not, it doesn't fill people with dread to like hear your story. And so I don't know. Am I answering your question? Did I get it?
Well, you are, and I think one of the points that you made is really important for a lot of people to hear. And this is something that I think is really common, that you've evolved, right? And we kind of have this idea that things have to be decided, done and dusted
Right.
once. But
Right.
what you've done a good job of is sort of listening, watching, and responding to the things that you've learned and heard from your audience. And these businesses that we run are fluid. They are fluid, they morph, they grow, they emerge, they change. And if we don't allow them to be that, and we don't allow them to do that, we
Mm-hmm.
get stuck, right? If we are so, if we're wearing our like cement shoes and we're digging our heels in and saying this is the way things have to be because I've already decided this,
Mm-hmm.
this is when we don't grow, right? When we don't allow ourselves to fit into all of the nooks and crannies that actually work really nicely for us.
Right. Yeah, and like, and it could be really scary because you're kind of known for this particular thing, and sometimes it's just a matter of talking about that thing differently. You know, because
Always.
you're seeing it differently yourself, and so, um, and you're not really going to know what the evolution is until you're hearing the chatter come back to you. Like sometimes 6 months later, when someone emails you and it's just like, oh my God, you know, this work that we did together, you know, here's what I've done since then, been the catalyst for this or that thing. And and then you're like, it's amazing to hear and wonderful to hear, but you're like, man, what is that all about? And so, yeah, you kind of have to experience the ripple effect of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you've done a really good job of experimenting, right? And like poking around and trying things out and not being afraid to kind of push the boundaries and make decisions quickly, right? This didn't work or this did work or oh, here's something that feels good, right? And I think you've been really receptive to that. And kind of yeah, and kind of on that note, like we talked about growth, what does growth really mean to you? Because when I talk about growth, I think about it in a lot of different areas. And growth in the kind of traditional internet business world means money.
Yeah.
And in my mind, growth actually um, means change on a lot of different axes. So in your personal business and your own experience, what have you kind of grown around in terms of your priorities and what does growth mean to you?
That's a great question. Growth to me has meant really falling in love with my business. You know, I mean, at first everything kind of starts off with like, here's how I'm going to make some money, right? Then you start working with actual people, and you start falling in love with them, and it's just been about having like a deeper perspective and a deeper connection to what I am doing. Um, and I'm motivated by that. I wish I was I wish I was more motivated by money. I mean, I am to a point. Um, but I would say it's not the thing that like gets me out of bed in the morning. I'm a very I'm an idealist, and so yeah, growth to me is making some kind of contribution, and I like to think that bringing our humanity and our stories into the business world is a way to make the business world better. And so, anyway, does that make sense?
Yeah, I love that. And so growth for you has been, I mean, we're all in business to make more money, right?
Yeah.
And that's not a bad thing. That listen, you don't have a business if you're not making money. So by nature of the fact, we're in business to make money. So I think we all need to like get rid of that silly statement that it's not about the money. Yeah, it is about the money, because otherwise you're running a charity. But if we just take that as sort of a given that we're all trying to grow our profitability so that we can continue to serve,
Right.
I'm interested in what growth is, around that. And it sounds like for you, it's that you really want to make this impact and this change in the business environment and this, I love the way you call it, bring more humanity into business. And I think in some sense, I'm after that too, right? I want this to be real. I want this to be relatable. And so in terms of what you consider to be growth and in your business, whatever that kind of organically means to you, what has really worked for you? What have you seen as results around, and what's like, what feels good for you?
Well, I have been doing more coaching, I guess is the word we're going to use, around people's writing. And because, um, yeah, some people really do want to write their own stuff. And that has been, it's something that I really enjoy and didn't know that I was going to enjoy, which I should have known that I was going to enjoy, because I've done so many workshopping classes, and helped people, nerd out over their stuff. That's what you do, is you sit back and you don't uh you don't correct. It's you, and there's no judgment. Like, you take on people's stuff, you look at what the attempts are that they're trying to make and what they want to do. Like, you can see it if you're a good workshopper, right? And find what's working in the piece, right? And help people maybe get rid of the things that aren't. And so working with people on something as intimate as their writing, um, yes, that feels like growth in the sense that I'm doing something that I really enjoy, and then clients get a lot out of it. And then I had a client. We're going to be working on a book, which is that's a big growth thing for me, because I've never helped anyone write a book. Full disclosure, and they know that. But yeah, I've written enough, and it just feels natural, which means that the way that I've been pivoting or attempting to pivot, and it's kind of opened up this little opportunity, then it's like, okay, then we're sniffing along the right track here. So yeah.
So you're moving towards what feels good. And this is something that we talk about a lot, right? Like, notice what something feels like for you. And I love that you kind of characterize what is attractive to you by the word intimacy, because the thing, the what you write is so much about intimacy. It's so much about, of all the kind of commercial copywriting you can do, the piece that you write and that you focus on is so intimate. It's probably the most intimate piece of work that you can do as a freelance copywriter, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know, that kind of surprises me that yeah, but I don't know. Why write anything that isn't intimate? I don't know. It's I mean, and you can be funny, you can be a lot of things in an intimate piece of writing, but letting people in the door, and and again, having boundaries in place, that's part of writing too. It's having you decide what people know and don't know. So it's not like, I mean, maybe I, as the person who's helping someone through their writing, is hearing some extra stuff that may or may not make it into the piece, right? But yeah, we get to decide what those things are, and that's still, yeah, being really honest and intimate with the reader. So it's important to have those boundaries with the reader.
One of the things that I come across a lot with people is that business owners have what I call the curse of the expert, right? They know their business too well,
Yes.
and they get really committed to a particular idea or a particular way of doing things or a particular something, and they kind of lose sight of what else is out there or what their audience really cares about. And so in a way, I see there's a lot of sort of parallels in the work that you do, because you need to be able to help your clients navigate what they feel really emotionally committed to. Right. And so how does that work? Like, how do you do that? How do you take something that someone feels so strongly about that, but that doesn't serve their story, and help them move through the emotional connection to that piece?
Right. In my experience, it's normally been like, it's not so much that they're hanging on to the wrong thing. It can be that they're hanging on to the wrong way to say it. And
Right.
in a better way to say it kind of drives you deeper. It opens up more possibilities into yeah, like what you're actually saying, and then what you would like to say more of. Like, yeah, there can be kind of a snowball effect for hitting on something that's kind of what you were saying, but it's a little bit different.
Okay.
Does
Yeah, makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
So we've talked about what kind of works for you in terms of your growth, right? Growth in all of these dimensions. Has there been something that has like definitively not worked for you that you've gone towards and then just gone, this is not where I need to be? Because I think that's as important as knowing what does work for you as knowing what doesn't.
Right. Um, well, I was exploring the idea, and I'm not cut off to it because I do like variety, but I was exploring the idea of working with agencies, right, on kind of more on like all the website copy
Right.
that someone would need. And I've done all the website copy that people need on their sites before. And yeah, I mean, it's fine. It's great. Success. Like we did it. We nailed it. And I just got yesterday, actually, a client sent me a link to their site that's up, and it was so cool to see everything working. Or when I see like excerpts from sales pages that I've written on social media, I'm like, there's my stuff. And that's pretty cool. But again, kind of back to working with people on that intimate level with their story, it's just it's just more fun. It's just yeah. And so I wouldn't say that. And back to the agency thing. I mean, I would get online and look at what agencies were doing and the clients that they were working with. Um, client like Red Bull and Subaru and those types of clients. And it just didn't. I would find myself procrastinating,
Mm.
just letting that particular agency slip through the cracks and never email them. And so anyway, yeah, I guess that's kind of a red flag. But again, if someone called me up, maybe, I don't know. Yeah, depends on what's going on the calendar, I guess. So.
Well, and I think you make a really good point that you listen to your body, and I think we don't do that enough. And the signs that something is not in alignment with you, and I talk about alignment all the time, is that you procrastinate, you find something else you'd rather do. If you are saying I should,
Mm-hmm.
it's really you're saying I wish I didn't have to.
Right.
And I think it's an important lesson for entrepreneurs to learn that your gut and what you feel is the most important thing for you to listen to, because your brain can tell you that all sorts of things are important, but if you're not going to get behind them, there is absolutely no point in you doing them.
Right.
And that's okay. You don't have to be like everyone else. You can have your own profile of what works for you and what doesn't work for you. And maybe it's a bit weird and it's totally fine, right? What we need is the things that are going to sort of drive you forward.
Right, exactly. And you have to determine like when you're just kind of being a wimp and aren't doing something that might be good for you, and when it's just kind of you're just not that interested. So yeah, it's a tricky path to navigate, and I'm I mean, I'm a fan. I tend to do this anyways. I'll try it and see how it goes, but yeah, but I do know for sure that working with people on their stories is definitely more rewarding for me.
Yeah, that meaningful content.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell us, okay, so I want to ask you, what's been the most pivotal moment in your business so far?
Oh my God.
What's been so impactful for you?
So impactful for me. Well, if we go way back to the beginning, I would say doing this niche to begin with has been really impactful because it's just, I mean, you can toil away on things for years, as a generalist. And and so doing the work, like really niching down on the bio, like that's how the opportunity to do the video came up. Like that's how, I got featured twice, with some really big names. And it's just, I don't know, it's kind of provided, it was a tipping domino that tipped over more dominoes and has again gotten me to this point.
Well, let's talk about this video for a second, because you referenced the video, but we haven't really talked about what that is yet. And in my mind, I think that video has provided one of the more pivotal moments in your business.
Yes.
All right. So why don't you tell us about the video?
So the video was sometimes that, yeah. So it was a lucky thing, and I've seen it online where people get really like kind of twitchy about talking about luck because they're like, I worked my ass off. There was no luck involved in this. And it's like, I'm sorry, but no one gets anywhere alone. You just don't.
Oh, wait, can we just say that again?
Yeah.
No one gets anywhere alone.
Right.
Oh, I love that.
Yes.
I'm writing that down.
Right. But you have, but there is work involved. Like you're doing the work, right? And then that enables some luck to come your way. And so I just happened to be, you want me to tell the story of how the video?
Yeah, I do.
So I just happened to be, I was living in Northern California. I get a text from my cousin who's like, hey, we're hanging out on the coast. And this is my fellow artist cousin who he's a little bit older than me. I don't see him much, lives in Baltimore. And he's like, come, you want to come hang out? We're getting this Airbnb. And I was like, yeah. And I just moved little mountains in my schedule and just made it happen because I wanted to hang out. And so I go out there and we're in this super cool Airbnb. We're chilling out, hanging out, drinking some wine. And we're having that, like, what have you been up to for the past 8 years since I've seen you? And so I'm telling him about my website. And then I'm over, like, talking to his wife later. My cousin, Price, is, like, messing around on my website. And he's just over there freaking out. He's like, these have such a visual component. He's reading my bio and my samples. And he's like, oh, my God. Like, we should make a video. And I was just kind of like, yeah, let's do it. And so we got up the next morning to shoot, a lot of the footage that was in the video. And then they left, and he went home, and we ended up, kind of working on it from afar. And then he and Jamie put it together. And then it was kind of like a marketing tool for their company, and it ended up being like a huge marketing tool for my company. But for me, that is a litmus test of a really well-told story, is if you could make it into a short film, because the visual components are there, the storytelling components are there, and you should be able to do that. And so anyway, so when I'm writing for other people, whether or not they're going to get a video made out of it or not, that is my intention, is that it could be made into a video. So.
And what happened with that video?
So I was in the girlfriends group, Ash Amberjay's girlfriend group, and I had it, and I didn't even post it. I was like, I was asking a question, like, do you guys, so I have this thing, you guys, and I don't really quite know what to do with it yet. And it's on my website. But anyway, and someone said, well, post it. And so I posted it in the Facebook group. And yeah, it's kind of been, it was just a windfall since then. Because then Ash Amberjay saw it, wrote about it on her blog. And then I was on the Wealthy Speaker podcast with Jane Atkinson. She has a huge audience, and that's what kind of opened me up to the speaker author crowd. And so, yeah, that's the story of the.
So there was a big uptick in interest and kind of your business at that particular moment, because Ash sends out this email. She's got a huge audience,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden, everybody wants to work with you.
Mm-hmm.
What happened then?
So what happened then was a crazy year of working from that experience, from her blowing me up on the blog, and then also from that podcast interview. And so basically my prices were going up, right? And then I kind of got to a point where, and again, this is where the word bio kind of comes. It can be limiting, but it also can be a great thing because everyone knows that they need a bio, right? But then how much are people willing to invest in a bio? And that's when it became apparent that I had to start talking about this differently, because again, it's not just a bio. There's all these different things that you can do with it. And so yeah, but it was the price point that made me realize that there needed to be either some more education around it, some more, a different way to talk about it, even though I feel like I'm talking about it all the time.
Yeah. It's been a really interesting exercise in kind of figuring out where people place their values,
Right.
And kind of interesting commentary on how much they value themselves.
Yes. That is so true. I've had this happen one time, and then kind of, maybe like 1.75 times.
To be exact,
according to my calculations. But I have had someone say to me, I love this. I don't know that I'm cool enough to live into this piece. And she was just so wrong, like she was so cool. But, and like in the crafting of the bio, it was like, yeah, I'm all about it, super excited. Oh my God, you captured me. But then when it came time to like use it and be done, it was like this really just interesting reaction, where it was like, nerves and nervousness about showing up in this kind of way. And it wasn't, I will never, ever, ever embellish anything. It isn't about embellishing. It's about, crafting something that's really interesting and beautiful to read and reveals a truth that cannot be there without crafting something beautiful. And so anyway, it was an interesting reaction. So
that's fascinating, and how much your work intersects with emotion, right? And that's a real thing for you.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I have people cry in a good way too. Yeah, it's not just that kind of stuff. It's just like, I am crying, and because it's so, it feels good to be understood, but also for your story to hit the mark, to hit the emotional mark, because it's hard to do that. You can tell the story, but if you're not getting at the why it matters to the reader, then it's not, we're missing it.
Right. Well, thank goodness they have you to put so much power behind their experiences.
Yes, thank you. And
I
really do think about it a lot.
I imagine it's confronting, right? Even in a good way.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I do a lot of in people go no one's ever I mean they might be surprised when they get the initial piece that we're working with, but there's revisions. It's not like I send people away with like good luck with that what I just wrote about you. Like we sit down and we coach and we talk through it and we because people will say like, oh, I know I said that, but it's actually a little bit more like this, and we make those tweaks and adjustments. So that people walk away happy, but at the same time, it's not just about pleasing people. You want them to walk away with like, okay, you know, I got it now. So, do you have the wherewithal to use it? So,
Yeah, I'm breathing into my story.
yeah,
Yeah. Oh,
right.
I love it.
Everyone's
I love it.
gonna.
Gives me tingles. Every time I read your stuff, it gives me tingles.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna shift the question here a little bit. You know me, and a lot of what I focus on is making things real, right? And this my group is called the Real Deal Business Group, and this whole series is called Real People, Real Business. It's my own personal bias against some of the things that make business owners feel less than or feel like they're not achieving.
Mm.
In your mind, what do you think the biggest gap is out there between real and what we kind of hear in the online business world?
Oh God. Well, I've been thinking about this a lot. So one thing that's happened for that I've experienced is we kind of focus on building numbers, like building lists, building followers, building all those online pools of people, and like what does it matter if you don't really know how to engage with it? And so, anyway, one of my goals has been and continues to be building up my network of people, not just online, but in the actual physical world. Right now, I live in Portland now as of last October, and so I I'm privileged in the sense that there's people around me and there's groups that exist, and I can just like go pay some money and be part of them and get introduced from there. And whether or not they turn into clients or not, it's like there's something about people knowing you and then like referring people to you and having a business community that is super important and that at least I can't really feel it so much online. And so
Yeah.
I that whole bit no one's really talking about, is like is having a business network, like a real genuine network, not just an online following. Um and yeah, I do wish there was more transparency back to like what I was saying earlier about this about like no one gets anywhere alone. We have these archetypes out there, these untouchable, brilliant people, these business owners online, and it's as if they did it all themselves with their brain. And it's like even if you just had a business background, like that's an upper hand. That's luck. Not to say you didn't earn that thing, but like we're all starting from different places, and the circumstances and the choices we make, like those that combination is what creates what is, or what could be. And so anyway, I think we're just missing the whole story, or the whole fleshed out version of like what really happens and how people get to where they are. And so it can create a lot of well, it can just kind of it's just some blows to your self esteem when you're working your butt off and just feel like you're not getting
Yeah.
anywhere. So, yeah.
I couldn't agree more. And that's a lot of the impetus behind trying to build a show around people who are like not celebrities
Right.
and who are doing things that are just as achievable to all the people who are listening, right? We're all in good company.
Right. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with slow growth, and that's probably going to be how it is when it's not 2008 and we're not all getting in on the beginning of the internet. It's not this way, you know.
Slow business, baby. I will stand behind it until the cows come home, and that has been the number one piece of feedback in my group program, that everybody loves the pace, right? Because I force them to go slow and to absorb, because that's real and that's what happens in business.
Right. And that's how you're going to make those intentional decisions and not just like spin your wheels in some kind of like vacant opportunity-less area. So,
Totally.
yeah.
All right. What do you wish you knew before you got started?
What do I wish I knew? Well, I've already mentioned the networking thing. That would have been good to know. Yeah.
That the engagement in real life
Yeah.
is so important, right?
Real life is so important.
Yeah.
And but also something that I really firmly believe is that my just being naive in the first place is what allows you to like dare and do anything. So I don't tend to, like I wish I had done the networking thing sooner. I think it would have just made things easier, but I don't. It's not like I regret it because you don't know what you don't know. One, and also um, me in the past, like it's so amazing how a business makes you grow, but like the idea that I would be like talking to certain types of people and they would be my friends and I would be working with them, I would be working with these ex marketing VPs, I would be like, oh, I don't know people like that. Like that would be scary, to think about it, where you're going to be. And so anyway, just being a little naive can get you daring enough to like go forward into the next phase and grow.
Oh, I love that.
So, yeah.
I love that.
But definitely, if there's anyone listening and you don't have your network built up, start working on that because, yeah, it'll just make things less lonely.
Be a human, right? People want to do business with humans.
They want to do business with humans, and there's so many good networking groups out there that are very welcoming. I think the old-fashioned networking groups could be like Shark Tanks, maybe. But again, I'm in a really great place. Portland, Oregon is a great place. And my experience so far is that everyone's just like welcoming.
Yeah.
On all, like there are people in this group that I belong to that don't have a website yet, and there are people that are very, accomplished. And so, anyway, so I love that there's, because then you have a chance to help, which makes your life better, and then also can be helped. So.
Yeah, Portland is my second home, and I agree. There's a really unique and very special community there that
Totally.
that has open arms. It's been wonderful.
Yeah.
So what's next for you, Caroline?
What is next is this new service that where I'm going to be addressing everything that we've talked about a little bit more, again, intentionally, where yes, people walk away with bios, but we're going to slow down, delve deeper into the story. I want to work with people who are on board with the idea of telling a story. And so their mind space is in the right place for that. And then I want to do more, basically just more of what I'm doing. I want to do more coaching people through their bios, and this whole book writing thing is really fresh, and I'm super excited about it. And
yeah, it's an exciting move for you for sure.
Yeah, more talking to people about their story.
Yeah. So in order to get there, this is in the interest of this group being a really strong community. What kind of support do you need in order to get there?
Well, like as I've said, just be my friend, like show up. And I'm one to talk. That's such a hypocritical statement for me to even say out loud. Because again, that's what I'm working on is showing up in person and online to the groups that I belong to. And so so yes. So if everyone shows up, then we've got, you know, we got a lot of action.
All right. So show up. You're asking others to show up as well.
I'm asking others, yeah, to show up and let's do this thing.
All right. I agree. Okay, my lady, it has been so awesome chatting with you. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak to everybody today. I know there are going to be people who have questions for you, who want to connect with you, and I encourage you all to connect with each other, to reach out to Caroline. She is amazing. She is so much fun. Can you tell everybody where they can find you?
Yes, switchbladelemonade.com. I am Switchblade Lemonade on Instagram. Yes. Can I give out my email address or just go to my website?
Nah, that's okay. We'll just put it. We'll put all of your profile and everything in the show notes. And if there's anything that you want to include, you know, if you have something that the listeners would like to download or go check out on your site.
I should mention that. Yeah, I have a do-it-yourself downloadable guide called Bio Like Beyonce. You don't have to be a Beyonce fan. I don't understand why you wouldn't be a Beyonce fan. It is very Beyonce centric. She's like the prime example that I use in this because I want people to I want to blow people's minds open on what's possible, and it's really about digging down and finding the story and getting it written. So anyway, you can read about it on my site, and also I want to add that I'm on LinkedIn now too. So if you're on LinkedIn, Caroline Mays, on LinkedIn. So
go find her on LinkedIn, Instagram, and on her website. Go watch her video because it's amazing. It is one of the best marketing videos I think I've ever seen, and it's totally you, Caroline. And I think that, you know, if I could sum up the personality of your business, you live you entirely in your business, and I have seen you kind of create these boundaries around exactly what you want, and I love that. And I think what you've done is you've created this brand and this persona that is so perfectly you, and you've stood by it.
Thank you. Well, I have good health, Stephanie.
All right.
Thank you. So no one does anything alone. Exactly.
Thank you, Caroline. That is an amazing gift for everybody to have heard your whole story and everything that you've learned. And I encourage everyone to go check out Caroline and God, work with her, because you will get a piece of art. No matter what you do with it, you will get a piece of art, or you will be on your way to creating your own piece of art. All right. And that is a wrap for this episode. Such an amazing conversation. I mean, I talk to Caroline pretty much every day, but I could continue talking to her now for probably hours. But make sure and go check her out on her website and her awesome Bio Like Beyonce. And thank you for tuning in today to hear this story. This episode that you're listening to, these are all featuring members of my free private Facebook group called the Real Deal Business Coaching Group, where we have daily prompts to keep you focused on building your business and sharing your everyday challenges too. That's what we're here to do. We have bi-weekly virtual coffee chats, open coaching, and member support from this incredible community. And if you'd like to join our community, or if you would like to be featured on this show, I'd love for you to come and get with us, hang out with us in this group. The link's in the show notes, or search up the Real Deal Business Coaching in Facebook to find us. And finally, I would love for you to join us for our next episode, where we are going to be diving in with another member from the group and, getting some awesome perspective with Lindsay Prof. Schultz, who is running a business called Pure Gift Boxes, and she is in my local hometown, and she has created a beautiful brand, and she is supporting local businesses, and I can't wait for you to hear from her as well. So thanks again for being here. And if you've enjoyed today's content, I would love for you to give me a review on whatever platform you're listening to this on, and help us share these stories with an even bigger audience, because I am determined to make sure that everyone out there building a business knows that there are real people doing the same things, struggling with the same things, solving the same problems as them. So until next time, I am cheering you on over here.